So we're here at what? Florida Tamaram. My name is Ajahn Wade Buripanyo, and normally Pan Jalkun Sunan would be giving a talk today, or perhaps Ajahn Mahodun. In their absence, Pan Jalkun asked me to deliver a talk. We have a group of lay supporters here for the talk today. And of course, the audience who's watching this on YouTube, as I understand it. Welcome, everyone. And the lay supporters have chanted a traditional homage to the Triple Gem, the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. And they have chanted the traditional invitation to the Dhamma talk, starting from Chalopa. Which recounts the holds the story of the Dhamma, requesting to teach. These were traditionally teaching for Dhamma talks in Thailand. Adjust the microphones. Right, is that better? Okay, good. I was just explaining about the homage to the Gem, which the lay people chanted, and then the invitation to teach, which recalls the great Dhamma's request to Buddha to teach traditionally chanted Dhamma talks in Thailand, not all the time, it's very common. And introduce myself briefly. My name is Ajahn Buripanyo. I usually reside at the Ashokan Meditation Center in upstate New York. So you have to always have yourself as you do it. That's for the thanks to the metta and hospitality. So I'll proceed into that now, preceded by a traditional homage to the Buddha and to the Triple Gem. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sambuddhassa. Buddham dhammam sangham namasami. And so what I've just chanted is the traditional homage to the Buddha, Namo Tassa, which translates as homage, pure, the fully and perfectly awakened. Buddham dhammam sangham namasami. Pay homage to the Buddha and Sangha. The homage to Tassa, Sutta Pitaka, the Tipitaka Triapido. It's accredited to a lay supporter who heard a teaching of the Buddha relayed to him by a friend. And so he knew where the Buddha was, but he was at a great distance. And so he knelt down on the ground right where he was, where he heard that teaching, and made Anjali, and he repeated the statement 3 times, Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa, out of reverence for the Buddha after hearing one teaching relayed to him by a friend. And so we receive that now over 100 generations later as a way to honor the Buddha. and followed by an homage to the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. They say that when you really understand the Buddha, then you'll understand the Dhamma. And when you understand the Buddha and the Dhamma, you'll really understand the Sangha. That we have all Four Noble Truths right there, I believe. It's my way of understanding it, my limited way of understanding it, I'm sure. That all of the Sangha members who have passed before us and who are still with us, and the Buddha himself, all had suffering. But they also eventually came to see the cause of suffering and the end of suffering and the path that leads to the end of suffering. And they practiced that path until they made a complete end of all of their suffering. And so if we understand the Buddha, then we also understand the Dhamma, and we understand the Sangha as well. And I think we can extrapolate from that, to some extent, the commonality of human experience. And while we all haven't made an end of suffering yet, we may not really understand the causes and the path of practice yet, that at least we all have suffering. And so within Buddhism, we think of all of our fellow living beings as being our brothers and sisters in suffering, brothers and sisters in the round of rebirth. Of course, Buddhism is a very optimistic religion. While we recognize the suffering that we find here in the round of rebirths, we have faith in the teachings that there is a way to put an end to suffering and to follow the path that the Buddha and the Sangha already have. And it's a religion that encourages us to be optimistic. I remember the story of the Buddha. He later told his disciples after he attained enlightenment, the Buddha talking about his own path of practice, that when he left home to try to find the way to immortality, he approached two teachers. And the teachers told him about their practice and the fruits of their practice, the benefits of their practice. And they sounded very good to the Buddha. Then he was still the Bodhisattva. Sounded very good to the Bodhisattva. And he thought to himself, well, these teachers have faith and energy, mindfulness and concentration and wisdom, what he would later teach his disciples as the 5 faculties. And he thought to himself, and I also have the faculties of faith, energy, mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom. And therefore it's possible, he thought to himself, it's possible for me also to practice in the way that these teachers have and attain to the same accomplishments that they have. And it became an emphasis in his teachings, it seems to me, that attaining awakening and progressing spiritually comes down to putting forth the effort on the right path of practice. That as long as we try, we have within us the raw materials to progress and to achieve what we want to achieve. And it reminds me of a common teaching in the lineage of Ajahn Mun, Luang Pu Mun. I ordained at Wat Map Chan, a monastery in the lineage of Luang Pu Cha. Luang Pu Cha's teacher was Luang Pu Mun. And the common teaching in the lineage of Luang Pu Mun is that as long as you keep trying, then you'll definitely succeed in attaining your spiritual aspirations. I think it must have something to do with the good karma, the good kamma, the boon, as we'd say in Thai, the boon of making right effort. Right effort is how we say in English, the Pali term Samma Vayamo from the Noble Eightfold Path, the Arya Atangika Magga. We have Samma Vayamo, which we translate into English as right effort. And this is, to state it in a simple way, it is simply trying to get rid of bad mental states, unskillful mental states from the heart and from the mind. And instead to foster and to develop skillful mental states. And as you might imagine, this is going to be a lot of boon. This is going to be very good kamma to do this. So my own way of thinking of it is that as long as you keep trying, as the Kruba Ajahns say, that you're making a lot of boon, you're making a lot of good kamma in this way. And of course, you're also developing your parami. The parami, as we say in English, is perfections. I think of them as the spiritual virtues that serve, again, as raw materials for our spiritual aspirations, as well as really for many accomplishments that we have to make throughout life. But as long as we keep trying along the path, as long as we keep making an effort, then we're developing our parami as well. And I've found this very encouraging in my own practice. It can be quite difficult sometimes to put forth effort in the practice on the path, trying to attain something as special as nibbana. Sometimes it can look like it's very far away. And so the masters used to tell us, is you focus on the present, and you try to be diligent in the present to keep doing good things that will help you progress. Yeah. And so you do all of the very basic things that we should do. You do your morning worship and your evening worship, Tamwat Chow, Tamwat Yin. You practice generosity, and you keep your precepts. Chanting your precepts every day is a very good practice. And practice meditation every day. And over time, you try to build on this. Are there times when I'm not keeping my precepts so well? Can I do a better job with my precepts? Are there times when I could practice more generosity? Is it possible for me to put forth more effort in meditation? And as we grow slowly over time, we start getting more and more benefits from our practice. It feels good. And if we notice this, then the character of the heart starts to change, so that it's more and more inclined to engaging in spiritual activities. And then over a long time, you look back and you realize, well, I've really made quite a lot of progress. Maybe more progress than I thought was possible. But simply by sticking with it and focusing on the present and working at it, little by little, day by day, we grow over time. It's been very nice here at the temple to see that Ten Chao Kun makes a point of administering the 5 precepts every day over in the eating hall before the meal. I think it's possible to start to think of it as just being business as usual, something we just do every day. I think it also might be possible to think, is it really necessary to do it if we just follow the precepts? I came across something very interesting in a documentary several years ago, a documentary about honesty and lying. And it was about a series of experiments performed at a university here in the United States. And the professor and his researchers were studying under what conditions do people lie, and under what conditions are they more likely to be honest. And they tried a variety of scenarios, one of which was they reminded people of their own moral fiber, as the professor referred to it. And ways they did this, for example, were at one point they asked people in the experiment to swear on a Bible. Here in the United States, we have this custom before someone testifies in court, in a court of law. They put one hand on a Bible, the Christian Bible, and they swear to tell the truth, and to tell only the truth. Yes. The truth, the whole truth, and only the truth. Yes. And they say, "So help me God." Yes. This was one way. Another way was having people in the experiment read the 10 Commandments from the Christian Bible, the 10 Commandments. And they found that after doing this and participating in the experiment, the people who did these things were less likely to lie than if they had not, even if they were not Christian. So even people who were not Christian, if they read the 10 Commandments, were more honest than if they hadn't read the 10 Commandments. And so the professor thought, if people are reminded of their own moral fiber, the quality within themselves of being moral and having good ethics, then they're less likely to lie. And I extrapolated this myself, thinking, I imagine it's the same with all of the precepts. That if we're reminded frequently, for example, within Buddhism, of the 5 precepts, then we'll be more likely to keep them. So I think this, so I was pleased to see that in Tencho Kun, I wanted to Anumotana. He does the 5 precepts for the lay supporters every day here in this temple. And something I think is certainly for the welfare of many people, in my humble opinion, as I understand it. I talked briefly about the 5 precepts, about morality this morning. I think everyone who was here in the Uposita hall, the Ubozot, or almost everyone was here this morning in the eating hall as well. We had a couple of ladies and their friends and families come into the temple to make merit in memory of departed loved ones. So one lady's father had passed away on this date in the past, and another lady's grandparents had passed away, and so she came in today to make merit for them. And I touched on talking about morality and the theme of impermanence as well. When people make merit in the temples in memory of departed loved ones, quite often they'll offer robes, which we call the Pangsakula robes, to the monastics, and receiving them will traditionally recite a verse attributed to Sakka in the Mahaparinibbana Sutta of the Digha Nikaya, where he talks about how all formations, all conditioned things are bound to pass away, but that their utter stilling, that is when formations don't arise anymore, then one experiences pleasure. This was very appropriate for the passing of the Buddha into Nibbana, which was the occasion for Sakka to utter this verse. And the monks recall this whenever we receive the Pangsakula robes by reciting this verse. And it reminds us about the transience of life. This life is short, and what the highest goal is for life. The theme of impermanence can be quite troubling. When we encounter impermanence in life, it can be quite a surprise, and sometimes it can be difficult to deal with. The parting of a loved one, of course, is a prime example. All of us, of course, are subject to aging and disease and death. 3 of the 5 subjects for frequent recollection, subjects that the Buddha told his disciples that everyone should remember frequently. He told his disciples that when he was younger, he thought about aging and disease and death, and his intoxication with youth and with life and with health entirely fell away. His intoxication. So he became more sober. And a way of talking about it that is very evocative, that are not aware of aging, disease, and death and don't contemplate them, quite likely will be attached to youth and health. In this way, the Buddha would recommend for us to go through life. With the benefit of years now, we look back on when we were younger, and we see other young people, and we can see this kind of intoxication, this kind of drunkenness. Sometimes we ourselves still find that sometimes we act a little drunk. Intoxicated with youth and with health and with life. We might look in the mirror and think, oh, I wish I still looked like I did many years ago. This is very common, you know. Or we may experience a pain in the body and think, oh, I wish my body still felt like it did when I was much younger. Yes. And if we think ahead to when we pass away, we may wish that we might never have to pass away. Yeah. But all of these things, of course, youth and health and life, are by their very nature in constant change. They're in flux, and they're impermanent. Even people who are young may pass away. Even people who are young may experience health problems. And even people who are young must experience the pain of aging. I think if we remember back to when we were young, or if we see the lives of other young people, we can see this happening to them. How they change as they grow, and they have difficulty associating with the same people who were their friends before, and they go through the pain of the changing relationships, and how to interact with people when they themselves are changing and the other people are changing, which is constantly happening, moment by moment, hour by hour, day by day. As they age, even young people must say goodbye to things that they hold very dear. The child who graduates from school, for example. It might be high school, for example. I remember myself leaving high school, I was sad. For years, I'd looked forward to graduating from high school. And I thought maybe when I go to college, it'll be a really good time. But when it came time to leave high school, I felt sad, leaving that behind, and leaving behind all the memories there. And young people have to go through many trials. It's precisely because they come into the world brand new. As young people, that they have to face many trials in growing up and learning. And so school can be very challenging, new relationships can be very challenging, managing and maneuvering through the world is a very challenging thing. They have to greet new challenges that are difficult, they have to leave things behind. And so the pains of aging are actually with us all throughout our lives, no matter what age we are. Asking for perfect health is sort of like asking for a dewdrop. If we think about a dewdrop, how long does a drop of dew last? Because the body has so many parts, right? In Buddhism, we especially talk about 32 of them. I know there's an old saying in Thailand, if you ask someone, how are you? They might say, all 32 parts are in good order. Right? There are actually many more parts to the body than that, aren't there? And how is it possible for all 32 parts of the body to work perfectly for a long period of time? In unison, in harmony. Quite a difficult thing to imagine, really, if you stop and think about it. So if we were to ask, if we were to wish for perfect health, well, how long would perfect health last? Wishing for perfect health is sort of like wishing for a dewdrop. And what if we all could live forever? It'd be quite an interesting state of affairs, wouldn't it, on this planet? What if everybody lived forever? We might wish, well, what about just me? But we wouldn't want to be the only person who lived forever. And what if everybody lived forever? There wouldn't be any room anymore. We can think about this at length. And it's very fruitful to think about it at length. If we think about these things, this is one way of letting go, to contemplate. If we're drunk, if we're intoxicated, we might only see what we think are the advantages of things like youth and health and life. And therefore we're attached to them. And then when they pass, we suffer, right? As we all know, the Buddha and the masters have all taught us that we should let go. And the reason to let go is that we'll feel better. It's a relief in the present. And also it prevents us from suffering when things change or things don't go the way we want them to. If we can let go, then we're at peace internally. Yes. And when it comes time for us to experience aging and health problems and even death, we can be at peace through the process. According to the masters, of course, and the teachings of the Buddha, we've done them all many, many times. Aging and disease and death. It's not something new. And in a way, we can take heart thinking about that, especially if we've done many good things. If we think about the generosity that we've practiced and the moral precepts that we've kept, practicing meditation and worship, then it builds up our confidence that even though we have to face difficulties in life and things we may not like, that those good things will be there for us to help us through. I remember there was a young Farang monk, a young white monk from Australia, who was staying at Wat Ba Nanachat, a monastery in the lineage of Ajahn Chah that was for the English-speaking monks in Thailand. He was very sick, and he was worried. And so he was speaking with Lumpur Liam, the current abbot of Wat Nong Papong. And so the spiritual head of the Ajahn Chah lineage and the monastery that this Farang monk was at. And he said to Lumpur, what if I die? And I'm sure the possibility of death had crossed the mind of this monk many times in the past, and perhaps had been the reason he'd ordained. He was a smart monk. So like all of us, he knew that someday he was going to die. But then when he was facing it, he was worried. And Lumpur says, well, if you die, then you die. That's it. A very simple statement. Some might say also not very encouraging. But I think it must have made the monk think about things and contemplate on his own. Well, if we die, then we die, and that's it. Because, of course, this is something we've done many times before. And when we die, then unless we attain Nibbana, then there will be a rebirth. And so we'll just go on, as we have many times in the past. One characteristic of impermanence is that just as things pass away, also things arise. I mentioned this morning with regard to the passing of relatives, the father and the grandparents, that it might make us sad that the loved ones in our lives pass on. But we can reflect that it's precisely because of impermanence that they came into our lives in the first place. And this can help us to feel more at ease about it and have more balance in the mind. The mind becomes more balanced. Recognizing this, that just as things pass away, also things will arise. It is a teaching of Buddhism, of course, that there is rebirth. Thai people, of course, are very familiar with this. I don't know how many people these days really believe. Personally, I believe in rebirth. It can be a challenging concept, I think. One might, if they were skeptical of the idea, might think, how could it be that we would be born again? If we see someone who's alive and we see that they've passed away, we might see them lying there. You might think, what is it that can be reborn? How is it possible for someone to be born again? This is a question we see even in the suttas with people challenging. One instance I remember challenging Mahakachana, Lumpur Mahakachana, about this question. And the Buddha did acknowledge to a group of people who were new to his teachings also at one point. He said that it's not really possible for you to know for sure if rebirth truly exists, if we really are born again. And in regard to another matter, he told them, that they had doubt about. He said, it's natural that you would have doubt about this, and it makes sense. There are many matters in life that are doubtful. And the Buddha didn't really recommend having what we call in English blind faith, just believing in things because we hear them, because people tell us. It's a relatively famous teaching in that sutta I just referred to about doubtful matters, that the Buddha said that we can believe in teachings that help us reduce our greed, aversion, and delusion when we put them into practice, and if they're praised by the wise. So things that we can put into practice and test for ourselves, if we see that they lower our kilesas, the kile, or the defilements, and they're praised by the wise, then we can really believe in those and keep following them. But many other things in life will be doubtful. And he told this group of people, he said that you can consider that if you lead a moral life, if you keep your precepts in this life, then it will protect you in this life from many kinds of trouble. And you can consider that if there is a next life, and we do receive the consequences of good and bad actions, then I'll be protected in a future life as well. And so in this way, we're covered both ways. A very pragmatic teaching, a very practical way to look at it, I think. Personally, I have faith in rebirth. I believe in rebirth. Modern science, to my knowledge, has not found what we call in Thai the jitjai, jitjai, the heart or the mind, consciousness as being something separate from the body. So there are many people in the world now who believe that what we are is just the body. And many of us can also acknowledge that science has, over time, over the centuries, discovered new things. And there have been various points in history when belief systems in the world, what people believed, were dramatically changed by new scientific discoveries. Yeah. And we don't know if science has the ability now to detect everything that truly exists. Perhaps someday in the future, science will be able to detect the jitjai, or the heart, the mind. Or perhaps not, I don't know. But in the practice of meditation, I think we can become much more sensitive, and we can experience the heart. I think we can experience the mind if we meditate. When we meditate, we follow a path that eventually leads inwards. When we meditate, typically we'll try to come into the body and be present right here in the body, in the here and now. We might practice many different kinds of meditation, recollection of the Buddha or the Dhamma or the Sangha, for example. But we would do so here without sending the mind out to various places, typically. If we practice mindfulness of breathing, anapanasati, breath meditation, similarly, we would come here to the body and pay attention to the breath in the present moment. And I think in this way, we become much more sensitive to what is here, and we begin to distinguish and notice the differences between the body and also that which knows, the one who knows, the one who is aware of these things, the one who remembers the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha, or the one who is mindful of the breathing. In fact, the first level of insight knowledge, or vipassana jnana, we translate into English the term vipassana jnana as insight knowledge. And the insight knowledges are learning stages. Once the mind is very concentrated, and it's continuously mindful, then it can learn at a very deep level. And the first learning stage, or insight knowledge, is the discrimination of mind and matter. The heart becomes aware of itself as something distinct from what it is aware of. It becomes self-aware. And I think even before we enter into the insight knowledges, meditators often get a sense for the heart itself as separate from what it's paying attention to. And I think for that reason, many meditators may feel that it really is true, that it's possible that perhaps we can be reborn again. Because within us there is this heart that is different from the body, distinct from the body. Now, Buddhism is called a training of the heart. There are many things that we know that our hearts don't know. We know them intellectually, these things, but the heart isn't aware of them. If we think about aging and disease and death, for example, these are subjects we've known about for a very long time, intellectually. But when we experience them, then the heart initiates emotions. That might include surprise, might include denial, maybe anger, maybe sadness, emotions that are suffering. And so this distinction is very important, that there are many things we know intellectually that the heart doesn't know. This is important because the heart is the one that initiates emotions, the suffering. Excuse me. Excuse me. Suffering emotions we might experience. Okay. Excuse me. Talking about impermanence and health problems. Something I have a catch in the throat. That there are many things we know intellectually that the heart doesn't know. So Buddhism is a training of the heart. It's one way of referring to it. We train ourselves to be generous by giving, and we train ourselves to be moral, to lead a good ethical life by being restrained and undertaking precepts. And we train the heart to see things clearly and to develop skillful mental states through the practice of meditation. And all of these practices reinforce each other, because generosity and morality also change how the heart behaves over time. They give us some self-control, and they help us to let go of the things that we want. Help us in various ways. Meditation helps us to be generous through learning how to practice with the mind, and also to keep our precepts. And so when we meditate, coming inward, we become present here and now. If we're practicing a meditation like breath meditation or recollection of the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha, as I mentioned before, the heart becomes calmer and calmer and calmer. And when the heart is calm, then that is also an excellent time to practice contemplation. So I was talking earlier about impermanence, for example. And if we're in a normal state of mind, when we contemplate something like impermanence, it can help us with letting go. But when the heart is calm, it can have a much deeper impact. When the heart is calm, it gathers together. It's one aspect of the heart being calm. It gathers together and it focuses, and all together at once experiencing one thing, such as a contemplation. Then the heart learns thoroughly, meaning the whole heart has an opportunity to learn. It can make a dramatic change in this way within our personalities. It's also an excellent way to develop our wisdom parami, panya parami, when the heart is calm, to contemplate in this way. Seeing the truth of the contemplation, seeing things the way that they are, in turn can help the heart become more calm, more likely to let go of other things, to settle down and not be restless. The meditator can proceed with more meditation even. So one mode of practice with meditation is to go back and forth between making the mind calm through paying attention to something like the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha, or breath meditation, and then contemplating one of the subjects of wisdom development, such as impermanence. And in this way also it can enliven the meditation. Making the mind calm becomes goal-oriented. We have the goal to make the mind calm. It feels good to make the mind calm. A calm mind feels very good. Then if we add to that we can practice contemplation, develop our wisdom parami as well, then it adds an additional incentive. There's a goal orientation to making the mind calm. I think that can be beneficial for many meditators these days. It isn't quite natural for the mind to be calm, I think. We're actually really quite stimulated. Our culture in this time, I think, is really quite stimulated. So the mind can be very restless. Having a variety of techniques to use, the various meditation subjects, then also the contemplations can help. Sometimes we may find the mind gets restless, and then we might say, well, how can I use this mind that's thinking or wants to do something? And we can go through a wisdom contemplation. This was a mode of practice recommended by, I'm sure, various Kruba Ajahns, but I remember now, Lungta Mahabua wrote a book along these lines, the Wisdom Develops Samadhi. Wisdom develops samadhi. I've been talking now for almost an hour, and I'm of a mood to do some meditation. one of the benefits of this long session here, 2 hours long, is that we have some time to spread out a little bit. And so I'd like to invite you to join me in a guided meditation. Perhaps the mind is inclined to it now, having talked. Right. So as I mentioned, when we practice meditation, oftentimes what we do is we try to come back here to the body. Right here and now. And we might close our eyes, which is very traditional in Theravadan Buddhism, if it feels comfortable to do so. We have a saying in Buddhism that if you want to see the world outside, then you open your eyes. And if you want to see the world inside, then you close your eyes. I would like to ask you to notice the sensations in your body. There might be one sensation that stands out, or there might be multiple sensations. Just try to notice and try to be with a sensation, or perhaps a few sensations in turn. Letting go of everything else. As we come inward. And be present with the body through the feeling of the sensations there. All right. Very good. All right. And then I would like to ask you to change focus to the feeling of the breath in particular. Noticing the breath moving within the body or moving the body. Wherever it may feel prominent, whether at the nose or the mouth or the chest perhaps, or the abdomen. And as we become aware of it, the breath may change. Which is okay as we are there with it. And we can work with the breath in order to help it feel good. As it nourishes the body, and then we can allow it to slowly settle into a natural rhythm. All right. And then I would like to invite you to practice breathing in a specific way called diaphragmatic breathing or belly breathing. And what this is we follow the breath as it comes in through the gateway at the nose or the mouth, down through the throat and the chest, all the way down to the abdomen, and allow the abdomen to expand to receive the air. And then there may be a pause, and then the abdomen contracts as the air rises up, and we follow it up through the chest and the throat, and then we rest there at the gateway as the breath flows out. Knowing and being aware. Breathing in, experience the breath coming through the gateway, going down through the body, the abdomen expanding to receive the air, then the lungs filling with air secondarily, if we want them to. Perhaps a pause, then the abdomen contracts, the air flows up again, and then we rest there at the gateway, experiencing the breath flowing out. Breathe in. Okay. We all noticed that, didn't we? Yes. And okay. Okay. So yes, I think it seems perhaps the battery died in the microphone that we're using here in the facility, but the microphone for YouTube, I think, is probably still working. So those who are practicing at home with us are probably still hearing me loud and clear, I believe. And so we can continue with our meditation. So breathing in, being present at the gateway, following the breath all the way down, And then following the breath up again, being present at the gateway as the breath flows out. And we can harmonize with the breath the recollection of peace by thinking, may I be calm. May I be calm. We can harmonize it with the breath as we breathe in, thinking, may I. And then as we breathe out, be calm. May I be calm. May I be calm. All right. Very good. And then I would like us to move our attention to a specific spot as we breathe. We can continue breathing in this way if we want to, if it feels good. But as we're breathing, focus in on the breath at the heart, in the middle of the chest. Feeling the breath rising and descending within the chest, or the rise and fall of the chest itself. We can continue for a few more moments with the recollection of peace. May I be calm. As we focus our attention on the sensation of the breathing right there at the heart. All right, very good. If you like, you can continue practicing in this way, or you can segue with me to the next stage of developing our mindfulness. by beginning to count the breath. Counting 1 with an in-breath, 2 with an out-breath, 3 with an in-breath, and so on up to 10. Okay. All right. Now, if you have reached 10, that's wonderful. If not, that's also okay. We just start again with 1 on an in-breath, 2 on an out-breath, 3 on an in-breath, and continue up to 10 again. All right. Once again, if you've reached 10, that's great. If not, that's also okay. We just begin again at 1 and count another set of 10. All right. And we'll continue practicing in this way for a few more minutes, being present with the breath at the heart, counting in sets of 10. And you can work with the breath if it helps you to stay with it. Perhaps taking slightly deeper breaths. And in a moment, I'll probably say a few words about meditating with distractions. All right. As we're meditating, if we find that the mind still goes off to other things, This is very normal. We can simply notice that we're not interested in that right now. Whether it's a thought of the past or the future or something outside, we notice these thoughts and remember, we're not interested in that right now. And let them go. Then gently come back to the breath at the heart. And resume our counting. In this way, developing some perseverance with our meditation and the training of the heart. If we find that the mind is still restless, we also can remember our recollection of peace. Returning to the recitation, may I be calm. Until the heart settles down some more. And we can return to the counting. And see, can we count a full set of 10? And if so, how many sets of 10 can we count? Practicing this training, walking the same path that the Buddha walked. They say that it was exactly this type of meditation, mindfulness of breathing, that the Holy Lord Buddha practiced when he attained awakening. And so every breath we're mindful of is another step on the path of the Buddha. And see if we can be right there with the breath. The breath and the heart. And if you can be very present there, letting go of everything else. We might imagine through our sense of feeling the heart collecting there at the breath. As we are aware of it. And we can allow the breath to come down from wherever it is. And collect there. Come to rest there. At the breath. As we walk this path that leads inward. And then I would like to ask you to drop a question into the heart. Drop the question, who am I? Into the heart. And simply experience what happens with mindfulness. Dropping the question, who am I? Into the heart. And as experience, simply with what is. Without. And as we are present with the experience, we simply try to be like an observer, feeling the feelings, experiencing the sensations, but without getting involved. And as things slowly change, and feelings and sensations fade away, we can be aware again when the time is right, simply of the breath there at the heart. And if it helps, we might think, may I be calm? Or we might simply be present with the experience that we have there. And then allow the mind to grow calm again. And then we'll slowly start to bring the meditation to a close with some thoughts of loving kindness, thinking, may I be happy. May I be happy. May I be happy. All right. Thinking these thoughts of goodwill for ourselves. And then we might think simply, may everyone be happy. May everyone be happy. May all beings be happy. And then we can raise our hands and join them palm to palm in front of the heart, out of gratitude and respect for meditation. Practice of the Holy Lord Buddha and the Triple Gem that we have received. And then we can slowly and mindfully lower our hands again. And then we can slowly open our eyes. And as the light comes in, just be aware of it at the eyes, without going out and getting involved with anything. And notice, how do we feel now? Do we feel more calm and clear and grounded and aware than when we started? Well, it certainly feels very calm here in the hall now. Even calmer than before. Actually, quite a simple practice in a way. Easy to learn and easy to replicate. And of tremendous power. I looked at my watch and I think that we were practicing for about 25 minutes, roughly, maybe 30 minutes. Modern science has shown that if we practice even just 20 minutes every day, that this will have tremendous benefits for us over time. And so here, I think we've practiced even a little bit more than that. And so this is very good for us. And I think we grow in wisdom in this way as well. Getting in touch with what is here, within us, the realities that are present, in taking time to pose to the heart. a basic question about the reality of the situation to consider. Who am I? If someone were to ask us this, or to ask us to consider this, normally people might think in their heads a variety of things. I am a mother, I am a father, I am a son, I am an engineer, I am a doctor, I am a Buddhist, I am a Christian. But when we pose the question to the heart, I think it considers it on a much more fundamental level. What are we, really? We have this body, this formation made up of other things that is constantly changing. Within this body we have the heart, the one who knows. And we talk about the heart as though it were one thing, the heart. Here in the West, we also have a metaphor. The heart is like a committee because it has so many different voices. The masters in Thailand say that really you can't say anything about the heart because it's unlike any other thing here in samsara, anything else here in the world.